you to an all-new edition of War Week Radio with five-decade fight trainer, Mr. James Gogue. Guys, before we introduce our featured guest of the evening, we do have to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by FightSaga.com. Guys, for all the latest boxing news, please visit FightSaga.com on the daily. Guys, this would not be a Sunday night, though, without the counsel of expert trainer, the one and only Mr. James Gogue. James, how the heck are you this evening, my friend?
Hey, Joe. I'm doing good.
Well, I tell you what, brother, I'm sure you're a lot more content than most boxing fans, as well as the brass at Fox, who paid money for the terribly uneventful and one-sided nature of last night's fight card on Fox. Mainstream Fox, home of the NFL, home of the Simpsons. It was embarrassing, Gogue, and we'll go into all of that. Also, we're going to talk about the recent activity of the WBA. Boy, how the mighty have fallen. It's hard to believe that is the oldest, most widely recognized, and supposed to be the most revered of all the major world titles. It's shocking what it's become. And we'll also talk about, well, the newly crowned WBA regular heavyweight champion, if you want to call him that, Mr. Trevor Bryan. Oh, boy. But I tell you what, Gogue, did you happen to see the Al Haymon night of mismatches on Fox last night?
Oh, I knew it was going to be like that, Joe. I think I mentioned it on our show last week. Joe,
you did. You didn't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it. Remember I told you? Because, I got that policy now. If I know a fight's a mismatch, which I can smell it out, rather quickly, to me it doesn't interest me. And, I'd rather not even talk about it because it's a waste of time. I only want to talk about compelling matchups, fights that, get me excited, that intrigue the fans out there, like the Burchell Oscar Valdez fight on February the 20th. Next month, this month coming up. So, like I said, it's just typical. I knew it, man. I knew that Al Haymon, like I said, he's the biggest. He's probably the biggest poison that has been in boxing the last 20 years. He takes care of certain fighters, okay, but he's bad for the sport because he doesn't get the best matchups on all his valuable networks, like Showtime, Fox, or the ones he had in the past, like ESPN and NBC. He doesn't. Well, sometimes he did. Like when he had Porter and Thurman. That was a good little fight on NBC. But most of the time,
look, Gogue, when he had $300 million of hedge fund investor money, we were seeing decent matchups on regular network TV on a regular basis. But after about a year and a half of that, when the money just evaporated, well, that's when it stopped.
Well,
because,
Joe,
we saw regular good matchups in the welterweight. Go ahead, sir.
He doesn't think like a TV executive. A real TV executive, a guy like Bobby Allen or Lou DiBella, Ken Hirschman, or Jay Larkin back in the days, they put compelling matchups on TV. They didn't put this bunch of shit he puts on. That's a TV executive, okay? And that's that's one of his roles, in PBC. He controls everything. He's a promoter. He's a TV executive. And a promoter always wants to put the best fights possible, which, is the most intriguing, okay? But he also is the manager. But he acts like a fucking manager 99.9% of the time. And he takes care of certain fighters to make sure they're protected, to make sure they got, fights are going to win, 80, 90% chance, probability. And when you do that, Joe, and instead of acting like a promoter or a TV executive that give the fans the best fights possible, and you start acting like a manager, well, guess what? You're going to see mismatches like last night on the card. And then they had that god-fucking-awful Francis Barthélemy. Why do they keep using that piece of shit
it's
all the
dreadful.
time? He's god-awful for
dreadful.
TV. You know what I mean? He's terrible, and they keep using that polished shit. And and that's why I said, Al Haymon has probably been the worst thing that happened to boxing. Everybody says, "Oh, he's the best thing." What the fuck? What do you mean he's the best thing? He's only takes care. He's good for the fighters, certain ones, but as far as the sport and making it healthy and instead of nurturing the sport to grow to the next levels, he puts shit on like this all the time in big networks. Like I told people, I said this on the show, Joe. He uses his platforms on Fox and Showtime, and puts his second and third stringers, okay, in mismatches. But he uses his pay-per-view, his pay-per-view outlet to put on, his best fighters in good matchups. But he's, like I said, Joe, he acts more like a manager instead of a TV executive, and that's what happens when you give that clown too much control. And Stevie Espinosa, look at the ratings for that Showtime show. Was it 150, 160,000?
Yep. It's dreadful.
Never used to get ratings like that. If you remember back in the days when Showtime had compelling fights, 800,000, $1 million, 1.2 million, 1.3.
Yeah.
On Showtime. Now he's turned. Stevie Espinosa's. The buck ends with him. Okay. Even though Al controls everything, he let Al, pretty much take control of everything and run it the way Al wanted to run it, like he did with Golden Boy at Telefutura. Oh, God, when he had that Telefutura series, Telefutura was meant to build and develop Mexican fighters, you know what I mean, because of their Mexican fan base. Well, he had guys like Gary Russell, the Charlos, et cetera, to fight on that network and put them in mismatches. You know what I mean, Joe? I mean, it just totally ruined that Telefutura network series with Golden Boy. But you know what? Eric let him do it. So, you know what I mean? That's Eric's fault. But Eric learned his lesson when they screwed him over and left him with none of those fighters under contract. And a lot of those Telefutura dates, they built a lot of those fighters up, okay? But, Al is, like I said, everything he touches, he turns to shit. And get this, Joe, you can't continue long term, man. I don't know if there's Fox or Showtime. If they don't get the ratings, he's gone. He's gonna have to find somewhere else. And he's burned every fucking bridge out there.
Yep. And here's the primary issue, right? Al Haymon is all of these fighters' advisor, right?
Yeah.
So his primary objective is to act in the best interest of his clients first and foremost, with the health of the sport a very distant second. And that's what we're seeing. And because he's overpaid his fighters, every time it's required to have a good matchup, these guys demand to be paid millions of dollars for good matchups because they're used to making millions for soft touches. So it leaves him no choice but to put those on pay-per-view so it doesn't eat up his entire yearly allotment, which on Fox is $60 million per year.
How long is this contract, Joe?
I have no idea, but he originally signed this deal with Fox back in 2017, so it can't be much longer. And
hopefully.
Well, let's talk about last night's fight first, right? We saw the return of the IBF super middleweight champion Caleb Plant in a 30-1 matchup. He was a 30-1 betting favorite going into it, and that was your main event against former titleist Caleb Truax, right? Your thoughts on, and once again, the whole reason for this showcase on mainstream Fox is, well, he's trying to make him an attraction, Caleb Plant, Al Haymon is, to attract a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez somewhere down the road, because obviously Canelo's made it known that he wants to collect all of the titles in the weight division that he feels most comfortable at, and that's 168. Obviously, that if he wants to accomplish that goal, then seemingly a matchup opposite Caleb Plant is imminent. But to be an attraction, he had to really make a statement last night. In your opinion, Gogue, in his unanimous decision victory and virtual shutout over Caleb Truax at 37 years of age, did he make that statement in your mind?
He should have knocked him out, man. When you're making a statement, you look, Joe. When you're making a statement, especially when you're a 30-1 fighting a 30-1 underdog, you score an explosive knockout. You don't go to damn decision. Everybody's talking, oh man, he looked good and this and that and this and that. Shit, he was fighting a guy who was a 30-1 underdog. I call him a 30-1 punching bag. Okay, come on, man. I mean, you're supposed to look good on guys like that, but you know what, Joe? If you don't take them out, 5, 6 rounds, God forbid, 7 rounds the most, I mean, that's not making a statement. Going the distance. I mean, come on, man. Truex is, 37 years old? He's past his prime. That was probably his last payday. And for him to go the distance and not make a statement, see, these fucking people or media guys or fanboys, they have a different standard than what I have, what I hold myself to. If we're fighting if we're fighting an opponent who's a 30-1 underdog, we're fighting on a big platform like Fox. Man, we're gonna make a statement. We're gonna knock them the fuck out. It ain't gonna go 5, 6 rounds, okay? And we're gonna punish this guy. We're not gonna go to the distance, okay? We're not gonna and let this guy, take the full ride. We're gonna cut the ride in half. And yeah, you can see his quick hands. I always talk about his, and all that stuff. But yeah, he to me, you score a spectacular knockout by making a statement. I get this. I remember back in the days when I was a young kid before I got into boxing in the 70s. There was all this hype about Roberto Duran, the Manos Di Piedra, So the first time I think he fought on ABC Wide World Sports, there was big hype because hey man, this is the guy hands of stones. He's knocking out everybody. Okay.
Yep.
I can't remember who he fought, but he was heavily favored. Just like Plant, like 20-1 or something like that, and he went the distance with the guy.
Yep.
And what happened was he didn't make a big splash. A lot of people were like, man, I thought this guy was some knockout killer. Another time, get this, Don Chargan used Duran at the Forum, and there was that big, hype. Oh, Manos Di Piedra from Panama, the explosive puncher, knocks out everybody. Well, when he fought on Don's card, he went the distance, and Don told me, man, he laid a dud, meaning he didn't score that spectacular knockout to get everybody excited. The standard I hold, okay? And Plant, he didn't score that spectacular knockout to get everybody excited, like And even if he did, shit. I mean, I knew it was a shit matchup, but at least the fans out there that don't know boxing that much, they were like, oh my God, this guy's for real, and he would have created a buzz. You know what I mean? Just like Duran when he didn't.
Yeah, and again, congratulations to Caleb Plant for getting the victory and defending his title. He improved his record to 21-0 with 12 knockouts. But if you're not going to knock him out, you at least expect. Go ahead, sir.
Fucking guy. When did he win this title? 2 years ago?
He initially won his title against Jose Uzcategui, which was a very impressive performance in 2019, January.
Was that? Well, that was 2 years ago then, huh?
Yep, 2 years ago.
He looked good.
He looked good.
What has he done since? 2 fucking years as a champion. He's fought, 3 times? And what has he done? What has he done to build his
tell you. He has a one-sided KO victory over Mike Lee.
Oh, geez, a 6-round fighter?
Yeah, a TKO victory over Vincent Feigenbutz.
Oh,
and
God.
Then what we saw last night.
That guy couldn't take my trash out. Who else?
And then what we saw last night, that's it.
You see what I mean, Joe? He's been the champion for two fucking years. God dang, man. I started saying to him, God, he's been a champion that long, and he hasn't fought nothing. Nobody.
Nope.
Number one, everybody talks about.
Go ahead, sir.
Everybody talks about his skills and all that shit. You're gonna look good on guys like that, okay? All that garbage he's been fighting, okay? But how are you gonna get better as a fighter not fighting guys like that, Joe? You remember I always tell you, you got to be tested. You got to be pushed. Iron sharpens iron in the sport. And has he gotten better? I don't know, because he hasn't fought nobody. Okay, until he fights somebody, then we'll find out what he has. But he's been, me honestly, Joe, when you keep fighting stuff like stiffs like that, you don't get no better. You get worse. Nope. Okay, when you got to fight somebody tough, and you're in a very difficult situation in a fight where where adversity strikes, you usually don't handle it that well. But anyway, like I said, man, to me, he's just like all these fucking Al Haymon bullshit champions, act like divas and they think they're all that and this and that. They ain't shit. See, it's who you fight and who you beat that tells me everything about you, okay? Not he's the IBF. Fuck that IBF. Fuck that belt, okay? Or he beat this guy, beat this. It don't matter. He beat a 6-round fighter, Mike Lee, okay? Then he beat that guy that, he beat that guy that, is good enough to cut my grass, okay? Then he beat this guy who, you know what I mean? But like I said, Joe, how good has he gotten? How much has he improved? Everybody don't know shit about. A lot of people don't know shit about boxing out there. Oh, he's got talent. They don't understand. He hasn't fought nobody. So how do you? He's been a champion for 2 years. How do you know that he's improved? And not until you see him fight somebody, then you'll find out.
Yep. Well, Plant blamed the lack of knockout, right, and the lack of drama. He blamed it on a hand injury. He stated he suffered in the first quarter of the 12-round contest, right? Okay. Now, this was surprising for me. This is someone who actually knows what they're looking at in the ring, and that's SOG, Andre Ward. He had this to say post-fight about Caleb Plant. Quote, Caleb Plant is very much still a problem for anyone at 168, including Canelo. He's a money fighter, which means he fights better when he's facing better competition. You will see his best when the competition gets stiffer. End quote. Well, my response to this is, how does he know? Because he's never fought any better than Uzcategui. How does he know, Gogue? We've never seen him in the ring opposite anyone better than Jose Uzcategui. That's what I was about to
tell you, Joe. How do you know he's going to get better?
Exactly.
To me, he's been a champion 2 years. How much has he improved by fighting chumps like this? How much? He hasn't. To me, you can see his talent. Well, he's supposed to do that, Joe. He should be able to whoop these guys with a 4-week training camp with a Sunday morning hangover walking into that ring. All right.
Yep.
But how do you know?
If he wasn't going to score a knockout last night, Gogue, his performance should have resembled Joe Calzaghe's paint job over previously undefeated Jeff Left Hook Lacey. It should have resembled that if he wanted to make a statement. Instead,
but Lacey can fight. Okay, Lacey was he had that aura about him.
Yep.
Yeah. He wasn't Caleb
Lacey was the favorite.
Past his prime.
Yep. In fact, Jeff Lacey was the favorite going into that fight, even in London, where they fought, even in Manchester, I think is where they fought, the MEN Arena, right? And okay, just as a side note, you remember that fight was actually televised. That unification bout at 168 pounds was on free regular subscriber Showtime.
It was at Showtime. Yeah.
Yep. Boy, it's a far cry from what we're getting now from PBC and Al Haymon. Yeah, Ken Hirschman.
That's what I mean,
he was
Joe.
actually the executive.
Whose fault is it though? It's Stevie Espinosa, number one, for letting that shit happen. Al Haymon, and his salesman, his used car salesman techniques convincing him to do this, and whoever runs Fox. I don't know who the fuck runs Fox over there, but he evidently don't know boxing to allow this kind of shit on his network. You know what I mean?
Yep. So Gogue, so instead of putting forth a Joe Calzaghe type performance, Well, it kind of most closely resembled Devin Haney's most recent effort against Yuriorkis Gamboa. He failed to sizzle, right? So if he wants to attract and build a huge pay-per-view fight opposite Canelo Alvarez, well, what would our late great mentor suggest? He would suggest, well, then you put together May the Best Man Win sink or swim fight opposite David Benavidez for the IBF super middleweight crown. So what is the probability though of that actually happening, Gogue?
Like me getting a date with J-Lo, okay? No. These motherfuckers are too scared to fight each other, Joe. They don't want to fight each other, you know what I mean? They're fucking bitches, man. Fuck them. You know what I mean? Come on, Joe. You got to be real. These fights are being hard to make these days, man. Not hard, fucking impossible. Okay.
Yep.
But anyway,
because all of these fighters, look, they haven't received the memo yet that the days of the inflated purses are long gone, especially after this pandemic. But they haven't received that memo yet, Gogue. So until they wake up and understand the respective market value and the nature of the business right now, well, they're going to continue to demand these inflated purses, and you're going to continue to see the best matchups possible not materialize. So I tell you what, congratulations to Caleb Plant, got a UD12 over Caleb Truax. Go ahead, sir.
I can't respect that. I can't respect Plant as a world champion until he fights somebody, a live body that the odds are, you know what I mean? They're damn near even or he's favored by 2-1 or so. I can't respect that guy as a champion when you're fighting 30-1 underdogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. So here's the recap, right, of last night's night of Haymon mismatches. Caleb Plant got the UD12 over Caleb Truax. Michael Coffey pulls the minor upset, KO3 over Darmani, the inflated-looking Darmani Rock. Rancis Barthelemy gets the UD10 over Al Rivera. And then Joey Spencer gets the just terrible one-sided mismatch knockout in the first round over Isaiah Selden.
He can't fight either, Joe. Joe, that Joey Spencer, that young kid coming up, he can't fight. I seen him in fights where he had to go to the distance, and you could see his what do you call it? His weaknesses when he has to go to distance. If he don't knock you out quick, and he has to go rounds, you can see his flaws. He can't fight. He's fucking, Rolly's, I think, is better than that guy.
Yeah, and that's not saying much. Gogue, look, I've seen club fighters that are actually more technically proficient than Isaiah Selden, his opponent last night.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, it looked like he didn't even know how to punch or fight.
Yeah.
He was miserable. And that's on Fox, home of the Simpsons, home of the NFL.
Who do you blame, though? You blame the fucking guys from Fox for allowing this shit. All right?
So, guys, we're just getting started in our deep bag of complaints. Okay? And this is how sad last night was. The most competitive and entertaining fight of the weekend was between Trevor Bryan and Bermane Stiverne. That was the most competitive and entertaining fight of the night or of the weekend. Two grossly overweight heavyweights sucking wind and trading hands a couple seconds every round. That was the most competitive. And once again, here's the worst part about that, though. It was for the WBA regular heavyweight title, whatever that means. And we'll get into that on the back half of our program because, the WBA, I don't think I want to recognize that sanctioning organization and their multiple titles per division. I don't think I want to recognize them any longer as a major world championship. And I'm not alone in feeling that way, Gogie.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
They become a fucking farce. That's what they became.
Oh, it's miserable, Gogie, right? It's absolutely miserable. And we're going to talk about this, right, in the back half of the show. Congratulations, though, to Trevor Bryan. And there was a lot of hoopla. This guy, Manuel Char, who was formerly, I guess, he was supposed to fight Trevor Bryan, right, to determine the WBA regular title, whatever that is, right? But he wasn't allowed to compete and defend his title. And so he claimed that he had a legitimate gripe with the WBA and with Don King. But this is a guy who hasn't competed in the ring since 2017. Why does this guy have a claim of any title in any division? Manuel Char, the guy that's gotten KTFO'd by everybody, thinks that he's been jobbed by the WBA. Why was this guy even a title holder? Now, listen to this, and I'm going to say this, Gogie, and I want you to answer this question. With Berman Stivern challenging Trevor Bryan for the WBA regular heavyweight title on Friday, with Yordenis Ugas becoming the WBA super champion at 147 pounds without having to fight anyone for it, and the fact that this sanctioning organization recognizes 3 different title holders in every division, is it time that fans, promoters, fighters, and networks stop recognizing the WBA belt as a major world championship? Your thoughts, Gogie?
Well, that's out of my control, I don't know.
No, I want your opinion on this.
Well, what do I think? Man, I don't respect that fucking belt. You know what I mean? But the thing is, these fucking TV networks keep using it. See, it used to be Golden Boy. Robert Diaz had a good relationship with Mendoza, the president, and Golden Boy used to have his fighters fight for all those bullshit belts, the regular title, the interim, and all that, all that shit. Then all of a sudden, Golden Boy, they had a little problem this year. They couldn't get no TV dates because of the pandemic. They were going through that lawsuit and DAZN and all that stuff. But anyway, Mendoza jumped ship, and he, now he's doing business with Haymon. You know what I mean? And now he's offering all these bullshit belts and everything. All these, just look at all those PBC fighters that are getting crowned with that WBA bullshit. Okay, before it was Golden Boy, but they moved on because they're all about making money, Joe, and they can't make no money if they don't hoard their belt around for that 3% sanctioning fee. But they're a joke. They're a fucking joke. They got 4 champions in each weight division. In the regular champion, the super champion, the champion, interim champion, all this bullshit. You know what I mean? It's a fraud. The WBA and the WBC are the longest standing organizations since I've been in this sport, since the 80s. Mm-hmm. And it's been around since the 70s or 60s and everything. The most prestigious. When you used to win that belt, it meant something. Like, it meant something special, a Super Bowl accomplishment. But because of the way they saturated that fucking belt and created all these bullshit extra belts, having 5 champions in one division, it devalued, it debased their belts, and they have no meaning. Like that Mario Barrios, he calls himself a world champion. Give me the fucking break. Everybody knows.
Everyone knows. Every real fan knows who the real champions are at 140 pounds, and that's Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor.
Jose Ramirez.
That's it.
He's a real champion at 140. It ain't that fucking Mario Barrios, man.
This is how sad. This is how sad, Gogie, the WBA has become. Like when you talk about the lineage of the WBA. Now, before they became the WBA, they were the only championship title in boxing, and it was called the NBA, the National Boxing Association. And it stretches the first heavyweight champion of the NBA was Jack Dempsey back in 1921. That's how disgraceful this is to that lineage.
Yeah. They destroyed everything, Joe. They destroyed the credibility, the lineage, the legacy of what that belt used to mean. The fuck, and the WBC is not far behind with their bullshit. Mauricio, pulling. I like Mauricio. I like him personally, but
he's a terribly nice guy. He is, and he seems to genuinely care about the sport and the fighters. Yep.
Look, Mauricio's fucked up that organization too by creating all those belts too. So the WBO, they don't play that game. The IBF, they don't play that game. But these two, oh man, they're the fucking clowns. Clown City of boxing them belts. They used to mean something. Now they don't mean shit.
It's become an embarrassment, Gogue.
Fighters really think they did something when they won that regular title or that interim title, or when they won that fucking WB silver belt. They think there's something. They think they're doing something. To me, I get them. I got no respect for that shit. You know what I mean? Because I came from an era when fighters, when they won that belt, the BC, the BA, it meant something. They beat the best.
Yep.
They did. They defended. They dethroned the current existing champion, who was pretty damn good. Because you got to be a pretty damn good fighter back then. They had, to win one of those belts. And if you go out there and beat them, hey, guess what? That makes you, the new champion. It makes something special. Now, it's a fucking joke. The WBA, the WBC, they're fucking garbage.
Do you remember the days, Gogue, when you used to win when a fighter won either the WBC or the WBA? People in their hometown celebrated by throwing them a parade.
Oh yeah.
When they when they flew back into town, it was a big deal. It was like winning the Super Bowl. Nowadays,
I'll tell you what.
If you win the WBA regular championship, no one recognizes you. No one knows. No one cares.
I'll tell you what. When Tony Lopez, I'll tell you what. Back in '88, Tony Lopez, Don Chargas fighter, when he won the title from Rocky Lockridge, I was there. The whole fucking town went crazy, man. Sacramento, oh my God, they exploded when he won the title. Then, they gave him a parade. Everywhere Tony went, man, he was like, I remember, man, because I was working with Tony back in the days. I go to the mall with him, and he was a celebrity just like the NBA Sacramento Kings. Everywhere he walked, you know what I mean, Joe? He walked around. Everybody, he was what do you call it?
He was a franchise
of Sacramento.
Of the city.
Everywhere we walked. Yeah, everywhere I walked,
he became a franchise of the city. Yep.
Yeah, he was he was a professional sport. All the Kings players, I remember Ralph Sampson, Reggie, they all respected him. That there was because the Kings back then, they were the only game in town. They were the big hot shots, and everybody looked up to them. But when Tony won the title, hey man, move along. But everybody used to love Tony. I mean, the strength and conditioning coach of the Kings. He used to, what do you call it? He used to, he used to introduce Tony to all those players, and they all loved Tony. He was a man. Okay, everywhere, like I said, Joe, everywhere we walked, he was like, man, like in the malls, man. It was like, you know what I mean? He was big just like all the players.
He was a rock star,
was
man.
like that too.
He was a rock star, and that's what usually happened when someone became champion. Now, it's funny. I received a ton of messages, right, asking me what I thought about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford's latest exchange on Twitter. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to comment on it because we've been very consistent on this show saying it's meaningless banter because neither Haymon nor Errol Spence want to have anything to do with making Crawford versus Spence a reality, even though the real bosses of boxing have created a mandate and demand this matchup. They don't care. So, guys, news was on Friday, due to the inactivity of Manny Pacquiao, the WBA removed Manny from his world title position and made him a champion in recess. But rather than, like in decades past, what used to happen when this took place is the number 1 and number 2 contenders, or 3 or 4, anything in the top 5 matchup, they usually fought for the vacant world title. But rather than doing that, because the WBA and Gilberto Mendoza Jr. is currently in bed with Al Haymon, Al Haymon convinced Gilberto Mendoza, hey, you know what? Just elevate the regular title holder, Yordenis Ugas, to the super champion status in the welterweight division, and then what we'll do is put together a big money fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Yordenis Ugas in a 3-title unification bout. And that's what's going to happen. The reason why I didn't want to comment on Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. is because I knew this was going to happen. Gogue, when did fighters start being elevated to world champions without having to fight anybody?
Only in this era. When Devin Haney, they made him a champion, emailed him a little note, you're now the world champion. Only in this era, Joe. Hey, look at Omar Figueroa. He won that interim title, that bullshit interim title. They found somebody he could beat, that tough Japanese guy. Then, you know what I mean? Broner was a champion, so when Broner vacated, they elevated him. Instead of having him fight somebody that was worthy to fight for this belt, they just gave him the title. They just, to me, they did the same. They did the same thing with his brother Brandon. He was the interim champion, and they elevated him to regular champion. You know what I mean?
It's a terrible practice for the sport.
Yeah,
it's very unhealthy for boxing. Now,
look,
Gogue,
Joe, this is entitled. This is the fucking entitled era of boxing. The divas, okay? They don't earn nothing. Everything's given to them. All right.
So this past September, right? Abel Ramos was Yordenis Ugas was featured on in September of last year on Fox to compete against Abel Ramos for the vacant WBA regular title. So you could say he defeated Abel Ramos to become their champion at 147 pounds. It's a disgrace, Gogue. It's a disgrace.
Oh, geez, yeah.
So here's in a nutshell, right? And a guy I have a lot of respect for, Adam Catterall, right? He's a correspondent and a reporter, boxing writer, in the UK, and he reports on both UFC and boxing. He had this to say on January 26th. He said this: there are currently 11 undisputed world champions in the UFC. In the next 60 days, 7 of them will be fighting. 5 of them will take on either the number 1 or number 2 ranked contender in their division, and the other 2 are going to be fighting each other. Is there any question why the UFC has safely just gotten past the sport of boxing in terms of stature in North America?
That's because of their business model, Joe. The best fight the best. None of this, giving shit. None of this entitlement shit. Like Dana White was saying the other day, boxing's fucked up because everything's given to you, entitlement and all that bullshit. But in UFC, it's not like that. Everything's incentivized. Meaning, if you get a knockout, you get more money. If you have the best fight at night, you get more money. And all this shit. There's incentive. It makes you more hungry. To go out there and fight. And then they make you, one if the title's vacant, number 1 fights number 2, or if you're the champion, you fight number 1 right away. You don't go. That's the way boxing used to be in back in the days. When you became champion, okay, you fought number 1. That's what UFC does. See what UFC does? It's nothing new. They're just following boxing's game plan. What they did back in the days, what made boxing so great. The best fight the best. That's all. And none of this shit by fighters posturing, acting like divas, and thinking about it. Because, Dana, if you don't want, hey, fuck, this is who you're going to fight. You don't like them? Fuck you. You're gone. Next. You know what I mean? Dana don't put up with that shit.
Nope. And in the UFC, there's only one way to win a major world title. You've got to fight for it. And you've got to fight the next best guy in the division. That's it. Which is the way it used to be. When boxing was the second biggest pastime in North America behind baseball, but that is long gone. I mean, those days are over. And to be honest with you, Gogue, I don't even know if I want to continue corresponding and covering this sport any longer, at least this version of it. Things have to change, or I'm going to lose interest, just like a ton of mainstream and casual fans who don't even recognize boxing as a major pastime any longer.
It's a fucking niche sport like skateboarding, all right? Bowling, okay? Tumbling. It's a niche sport. That's what it is, Joe. I hate to say that. It's become a niche sport. You know what I mean?
Disgraceful. Disgraceful.
It's not mainstream don't respect this sport. I bet you a lot of guys in UFC don't respect this shit because they got to fight and earn their shit. I know Dana White. Oh man, I was listening to an interview to him the other day. He thinks boxing is a fucking joke, which he's right. No,
it is.
When somebody tries to criticize our sport, I get kind of offended because it's my sport I love. But hey, I can't argue with the guy. He's right. He's 110% right. Boxing has become a fucking fraud. It's become a fucking joke. You know what I mean?
It's sad. It's absolutely sad. It's disgusting. So, guys, buckle up. Look, before we go any further, let me just share this with you. Spence's last pay-per-view against Danny Garcia, okay, the real number, not the inflated one, was between 150,000 and 175,000 purchases. The UFC's most recent pay-per-view event on ESPN pay-per-view did 1.6 million. That speaks volumes right there, Gogue.
I heard the server crash for ESPN Plus, where they couldn't, you know what I mean?
Jeez.
A lot of customers couldn't get the fight.
Wow. So it should have done more.
Joe, we're in pandemic times, okay?
Yep.
But guess what? UFC is thriving, not boxing. Boxing is fucking shit. Look at the ratings on Showtime. 150, 160 the other night for a good, compelling matchup. But the thing is,
and that was on regular subscriber. Yep.
Yeah, but the thing is, they don't do good, compelling matchups all the time. So you're not gonna, you got to do it consistently on a on a month-to-month basis. Have the best fight the best. Then you're gonna grow the fan base. But the way they do it, they'll have one good matchup like Fulton and Leo. Then they'll have 5 or 6, 7, 8 shit matchups, like the one coming up with that broke fat boy Adrian Broner. You know what I mean? Shot hasn't won a fight in 5 years? You know what I mean? Since Trump since Trump became president. Was that the last time he won?
Oh, jeez. Gogue, listen to this.
When was the last time he won? I think it was when Trump was, what do you call it, the day he was inaugurated, I think. I can't remember.
I don't know, Gogue, but listen to this, Gogue. And it was announced, right, and once again, they're showcasing these super middleweights on Fox to try and create these attractions and suitable opponents for Canelo Alvarez to try and attract him to compete on the PBC platforms, right? So It was announced last night that the next main event on Fox, the flagship channel, is going to be Anthony Durrell versus Tyrone Davis on February 27th.
Oh my God, that's the main event?
That's the main event, Gogue.
You got a fucking shot fighter in Durrell against a guy that Tyrone Davis. I think he got knocked out one time. You know what I mean? He ain't done shit either.
Yep.
A guy that's just an ESPN level opponent, okay, against a guy that's over his prime, and that's going to be on Fox. See, see this. Who do you blame? You blame. You know what? I always blame that piece of shit Al Haymon, but they let him get away with it. You blame them dumb fucks at Fox. You blame them dumb fucks at Fox, the executives or whoever that are allowing this shit. So you know what I mean?
They're giving Haymon $60 million per year for that. So I tell you what, congratulations to Trevor Bryan in defeating Berman Stivern and becoming the WBA regular heavyweight title holder, beating 43-year-old, 270-pound Berman Stivern. Congratulations,
fuck that WBA
brother.
Regular title.
Yeah, I'm not even going to recognize it any longer on this show, Gogue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
I don't respect that fucking belt.
So
I don't respect that fucking belt.
So all of the words, right, that Errol Spence had in trying to shoot down and rationalize why he shouldn't fight Terrence Crawford, well, this is what he had to say on his same Twitter account, right, when he found out that Yordenis Ugas was elevated by the WBA, Spence took to social media to express his interest in the fight. He said this, quote, "All you needed was something I want. Strap season. Let's get it." End quote.
Fuck Spence. Fuck that motherfucker. I ain't got no respect for him either, okay? He's a little diva bitch. Fuck Spence.
Nope.
You know
guys,
what? And if I do watch that fight, I'll watch. If I do watch that fight, I'll watch it here free on Mexico ESPN Plus, or I'll pirate that motherfucker. All right? I will never pay for none of his fights. Fuck no. I ain't putting no extra money in that bitch's pocket. You know what I mean? He's a
nope, I'm not investing in another Spence pay-per-view until he fights Terrence Crawford, and we're not the only ones who feel this way, Gogue. Let me ask you something.
I'm sick of it. I don't give a fuck if it happens or not, man. You know what I mean? The way that diva.
Yep. Well,
look, diva is. Fuck him. Fuck Spence.
Look,
I don't respect him. I don't respect him. Nothing. You know how. You know what I mean?
No,
fuck him.
It's obvious he and Haymon do not want this Crawford fight. It's obvious to anyone who knows the industry and knows the business of boxing. As soon as you hear a fighter starting to throw out purse splits and monetary figures through social media and through media outlets,
they don't want the fight.
Then it's obvious that he doesn't really want the fight, guys. Wake up. Spence and Haymon have no interest in making that fight a reality until Crawford leaves Top Rank. And once again, you've got the Deontay Wilder mess to thank for this. The last time, Gogue, that Al Haymon rolled the bones and made an inter-promotional event, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 2, how well did it work out for him?
He got knocked out.
He lost his biggest earner. He hasn't fought since, and his stock has plummeted.
Oh, and the thing is, Joe, you know, Al has got nobody in the heavyweight division coming up that's worth a shit. You know what I mean?
Nope. Andy Ruiz Jr. At one point in time, right? Okay, as of December or November of 2019, guess what? Al Haymon had all of the heavyweight titles.
Yeah.
3 months later, he's got nothing, and both of his representative fighters, okay, embarrassed themselves post-fight. Andy Ruiz making that terrible excuse. Oh, no, I really didn't train for this, but hey, give me another fight, guys. I'll do better next time. He hasn't fought since. And then you've got Deontay Wilder embarrassing himself with this glove gate, accusing Tyson Fury of cheating, believing all this nonsense that he's a king. Both guys' stock has plummeted, and you haven't seen them in the ring. And those were, at that time, Gogue, Al Haymon's top earners. So do you really think how those fights ended? Now remember, those two events were both inter-promotional events with Matchroom Sport and Top Rank, respectively. Do you think he's going to take that kind of risk now? No, and that's why, guys, you're not seeing Spence versus Crawford. He is not going to take the risk and put together an inter-promotional event because of how sour the outcome was for him in his last two inter-promotional events. Your final thoughts on this before we move on, brother?
Let me tell you this. The reason why Top Rank has lasted this long, because they know how to develop young talent every 4 years. You know, the next generation of fighters coming up. And Al, he has no – I mean, name some good fighters that Al got coming up that, you know, really got your you know what I mean, that's really got your attention and everything. You know, Top Rank's got a lot of good fighters coming up. You know, they got Shakir. I mean, they got. I mean, if you look at, they got Teofimo. You know what I mean? They got some good young fighters coming up, man, because they know how to develop the next generation of stars. If you look at Al, who does he have? Since he left Boy, who else has he developed?
The only fighters I can think of who he's developed is Gervonta Davis, and that's it. That's it. That's the only fighter that he has done a good job developing. That's it. And even then,
Mayweather Promotions.
Gervonta Davis hasn't fought anyone.
Yeah. What Mayweather Promotions, really, developed him and everything.
Leonard Ellerbe and Floyd Mayweather, yeah.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, Joe. If you want longevity in the sport, man, you got to keep on having, new prospects coming up.
That's right.
The new generation of stars. And Al, his circus, you got guys like Porter, they're getting old. Thurman.
The Golden Boy PBC welterweights, yep, they're all getting old, and they're all inactive and have grown accustomed to receiving inflated purses.
The Charlos are next. I mean, but you got to have guys coming behind them, and they don't. You know what I mean? And plus, like I said, that's why I always feel Top Rank's the best promoter out there, man. They know how to develop the next generation of stars. Just look at their track record the last 50 years. And no promoter does it better than developing the young kids coming up than Top Rank, okay? Not only building their records up, but developing and nurturing with the right fights where they grow their and nurture their skills, okay, and talent. But marketing too. They get them well known and everything. So, but like I said, Al, he ain't got nobody worth a shit. That can fight. That's creating a buzz. Tank Davis. Yeah, but he hasn't fought nobody. You know what I mean? And he don't want to fight nobody. So, like I said, how longevity wise, 5 years from now, where is Al gonna be? All those welterweights are gonna be old.
Yep.
All those welterweights are gonna be old. Charlos are gonna be old, and Fat Boy Tank Davis, he'll be hitting 30. You know what I mean? But they don't have nobody else.
Let me ask you something, Gogue. Does PBC currently have a prospect with the kind of buzz or juice that Edgar Berlanga has at this point? Not even close. No. That says it all, Gogue.
Benavidez is a young kid coming up, but he's
already been champion. He's already been champion.
Yeah.
Right?
And he fucked it up, lost his belt on the scale. Well, Joe, I never heard that before. Joe, to lose your belt, not in a fight, but on the scale, is the biggest sin.
That's not the only time he lost it. He lost it the first time by doing blow. Tested positive for cocaine.
He lost his title. I like David. Nice guy.
I think he's a great fighter, and I like his dad. I like his family.
Yeah, dad, brother Jose. But what? I'm talking about his professionalism. He didn't take care of business. He lost focus.
He's right there with Andy Ruiz, brother. A lot of talent, but a 10-cent head, my friend.
Well, he's not as bad as that guy. But anyway, they have they don't have a lot of guys, man. I mean, they just don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of horses. And him Plant talking about fighting Canelo, bullshit, man. Because when it comes down to it, when it comes down to it, they're going to overprice themselves and they're not going to want to fight. So it's all hype. You know what I mean? No. You know what I mean? I'm the A side. Canelo could call the shots. Hey, okay, this is what I want to get paid. Whatever, if there's 30 in the pot, hey, Canelo's probably I want 28, and you do whatever you pay. If there's 30, Canelo wants 25, 20 million, whatever he's going to ask, they better pay him. Or he'll go over to Eddie, because like I said, he's a free agent. When you're a free agent, you could do that. And that, to me, it's all hype. I mean, it's all fucking talk. Until like I said, Joe, look at that Ryan Garcia shit. Talk.
You know what,
talking. They keep Listen, Joe. They keep on talking that things are getting done. Negotiations are looking positive. Oh, fuck me. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Well, you were justified, and once again, I don't know if Eric Gomez just doesn't want to discuss this anymore, doesn't want to be asked about this anymore. But this is what he had to say yesterday regarding Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao. He said this: "Look, there's nothing to talk about there." Quote. There's nothing to talk about there. They contacted us, but it turns out there's nothing to talk about. That fight isn't going to happen. End quote.
Okay.
That's what he said.
It was all talk then. Okay.
You were right in saying, you know what? I don't even want to talk. Last week, I'm going to do a recap. This is what Gogue had to say when asked about Manny Pacquiao versus Ryan Garcia. You know what, Joe? I don't want to talk about this because it's all noise. In fact, fans, you'd be wise not to get your hopes up until you see both men enter the ring. Like, even if the fight is announced, don't get excited until you see both men make the ring walk. End quote.
Yeah.
That's what you said last week. You've been in this game way too long, and you can sniff out BS.
Fraud.
Would you care to elaborate on that, Gogue?
Oh, yeah, Joe, I've been in this long. I know if a fight's going to go through or not. I could tell if both fighters want it and everything. Or, the money's there. The money's there. The TV date's secured. It's just all the people that are involved in everything. Joe, who's going to be the promoter of the show? Who's putting up the money for this show, for this thing to happen? I don't know who the fuck is. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
If there's no money source behind it, the fight ain't going to happen. And
that's right.
Joe, I heard they got some guy platinum. I can't remember some platinum promotion, some new wannabe promoter. They're talking all that shit.
Oh, no. That's. Oh, yeah. You know what? I read that as well. Who the hell is that, man?
Yeah, I heard that before. You know what I mean? I want to hear this. Just like when George Foreman was supposed to fight Larry Holmes, they had that fraud promoter, Roger Levitt. It was in Houston in '99, I think. And Roger Levitt, was talking big and all that. George Foreman, Larry Holmes at the Astrodome. It's going to do 3 million pay-per-views. And, Roger Levitt, what happened was, was getting everybody excited. But guess what? He didn't have the money to put the show on. 2 weeks before the fight, they canceled it. But George, being the smart guy he is, he knew this guy was a fraud because, Roy Foreman, his brother, told me that, he knew this fight was going to go off. So he had his lawyer, Henry Holmes, they fronted George $1 million up front if the fight didn't go off. And Larry Holmes got like $350,000 fronted up front. So basically what they did, George got paid $1 million and Larry Holmes got paid $350,000 just to do a couple press conferences. That's all. Yeah. And I met
Gogue, let me ask you something, brother.
I met the investors at that press. I met the investors at that press conference, and they told me, they lended, they put up the money and everything. But like I said, poor investors, they never got paid back.
Let me ask you something, Gogue. You did some talent scouting for Rock Nation Sports, right? Several years
when
ago.
They first started, yeah. Dave Ishewitz. Yeah. What about him?
How are they doing now?
Yeah. They're out of business.
How's 50 Cent's SMS promotions doing right now?
Out of business. All talk. That's all. All them fucking guys are just all talk. They think they just could come here and stir shit up and make things happen. No, yeah, whatever. Yeah, they're just all talk, Joe. That's all you hear in this business. You get a bunch of talkers, but a few doers. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this, Gogue. I'm going to give
talking
it.
Big too.
Right? Yep, I remember. Do you remember when?
Joe.
Do you remember when? Go ahead, sir.
50. When Dave Ishewitz and Rock Nation? I met them guys, man. I met the two players, man. We sat and talked and all that and everything, and they were talking all this big shit. And I was like, yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Dave Ishewitz lasted 2 years. Then he quit. And then the other guy, I can't remember his name.
Well, I'll say this, Gogue. I'll say this. I'm going to give it, because I'm serious, and I know you feel the same way. I don't think I want to correspond or cover this version of the sport any longer. I'm going to give it till the end of February, till we see Top Rank and DAZN start showcasing their talent. And if things don't improve by then, I'm going to call it a wrap on me reporting or writing for Fight Saga and also conducting this show on a weekly basis. And that's it.
We'll just report on the worthy matches like Burchell Valdez. That's worth reporting. Joe Smith, you know what I mean? He's coming off a good win. It's a good matchup he's fighting. And plus the thing is, they got a lot of good fighters on the undercard. Like I want to see, like Gabriel Flores, a young guy from Stockton, who sold out when he fought in Stockton, he had over 10,000 fans. Well, he's fighting his first step-up fight against Jason Velez. A good step-up fight for the kid. You know what I mean? At 20 years old, this kind of fighters you fight, okay? To test your mettle to get better. And they got Shakir. I mean, they got they just got. I can't remember. I was talking to Pete Susan, who works for Top Rank. He was telling me he was giving me the lineup. Giving me the lineup. I said, okay. And he was telling me Berlanga was going to fight.
So, this is something to look forward to on February 13th from ESPN and DAZN, right?
Yeah.
So you've got Joe Smith Jr. defending his title against Maxim Vlasov, right, for the WBO light heavyweight title. Then in the co-main event, you've got Richard Comey versus Jackson Mariñez. And then you've got Adam Lopez versus Jason Sanchez. That's a great fight. And then you've got the return of Jared Anderson versus Kingsley Ivey. Okay, those are good fights. And then you've got from Indio, California on DAZN, Golden Boy, the return of Jojo Diaz, going to be defending his IBF junior lightweight title against Shavkat Rakhimov. And then you've got in the co-main event, Patrick Teixeira defending his WBO 154-pound title against Brian Castano. And, those should be good fights as well.
Castano's that's a good fight. Him and Patrick Teixeira, that's a solid fight. I think that's a better matchup than Jojo Diaz and that other guy. Yeah.
Agreed. And then on February 20th, you've got the big one, Miguel Berchelt versus Oscar Valdez.
That's the fight I want to see.
That's got fight of the year written all over it if Oscar Valdez's chin can withstand the awesome force, the irresistible force that is Miguel Berchelt. And then the co-main event, Gabriel Flores Jr. versus Jason Velez in a 10-round special attraction at 130 pounds.
Hey, Joe.
Yep.
Do you see the differences of matchups? What Golden Boy?
It's not even comparable.
Versus
it's not
PBC.
Even. And then the following weekend, Gogi, February 27th, Jamil Herring versus Carl Frampton for Herring's WBO junior lightweight title at 130 pounds.
Yeah. Frampton, I like Frampton. I like to see what he has left. I don't think much of Herring, to tell you the truth. Nah. But, this is a very good chance for Frampton to win another title.
Yep, and to possibly set up a fight opposite Vasil Lomachenko. So there it is, guys. Those are what you have to look forward to in February 27th. And notice I didn't mention Canelo Alvarez versus Avni Yildirim. Yes, that's a fight that's going to move the needle for a mainstream and casual audience. But Avni Yildirim is tailor-made for Canelo Alvarez. He is going to break him in half within 3 rounds. Yep. Yeah,
it's Canelo Alvarez. Every time Canelo Alvarez fights, he's boxing's biggest star this side of the pond. So guess what?
Yep.
People are going to want to tune in no matter who he fights. So plus he's coming off that great victory, Callum Smith. So I'm going to watch that. Yeah.
Yep. But guys, expect to hear another rant from me by myself tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to have a special show just for about 20 to 30 minutes, just going off on things that we weren't very specific with on this episode. But, guys, in case you missed any part of the show, you can hear it in about an hour on YouTube, Warweek Radio Network on YouTube. Gogi, do you have any parting shots for our listening audience?
No, it's going to be dry till, February the 13th? Yeah, there's no fights next week, I don't think. So, it'll be dry. Just, wait for that Joe Smith fight. It should be good. Yeah, because Joe, like I said, he's gotten better. And he's fighting, I think he's a tough Russian or Ukrainian guy. I don't know where that guy's from, but he's a pretty solid opponent. So that should be good. Then, the co-main event, then all the other fights they got. It's good for ESPN, you know what I mean? But, the fight I want, like I said, February 20th, that's the fight, okay? That's the one that, like you said, has a potential to be fight of the year. Alexandre Berchelt against, rest in peace, Oscar Valdez.
Guys, he's James Gogue. You can hear him every Sunday, at least for the next month. Guys, let's hope for the best and prepare for the worst. But that's going to just about do it. Guys, on behalf of Maestro James Gogue, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to Warweek Radio Network.